Hello everyone, good morning. So in today's knowledge sharing session, we are going to take a look at one of the key functionalities of storage location, right? So any plant will be having a storage location in it, right? So for example, if we go to SPRO when the storage locations are already configured, so when you go to SPRO, right, and I'll just pick up a plant here which is already configured and which has storage locations in it. So for example, I'll take this plant 1710 as an example, right? 1710 plant is having almost like around 29 storage locations in it. So you see, this is the storage location ID is the description, and there is something called as validity here, right? So if you take this as an example of the storage location 1718, right? What happens if it's valid now, right? What will happen if I select it as a deprecated, right? Let me select it as deprecated here. I'll save this. I'll click on save, enter. Okay. Now this has been saved. Okay. Now let me quickly run through a transaction. Okay, where I will quickly create I'll quickly create a purchase order here for 1710, right? So take an example of a material. So I'll maintain the plant as 1710 is the plant where I'm having it. Take the call it is 100, right? So I'll quickly save this purchase order. I have my purchase order here being saved. This is my PO which has been created, right? So while the goods receipt is being done, right? Now what is the now as we have maintained this particular storage location as deprecated, right? So whenever a goods receipt is being done, the warehouse clerk could be entering the storage location there, right? For instance, I'm doing a goods receipt against a purchase order for this particular PO, right? So here we would find under the square tab we would find basically there is a storage location here. If I click on F4, I still see that storage location which is deprecated as 1718, right? So this was our storage location 1718 which has been deprecated, and we have this 1718. I'll still select this 1718. I'll click on item, okay, and I'll click on check. Okay, so what it says is basically storage location 1718 plant is deprecated, posting not allowed, right? So basically this particular functionality of deprecation is if I select this deprecated, so there would not be any postings happening of the stock increase to this particular storage location. This would be a business use case because earlier in those scenarios the business would basically there was no such functionality, and they would basically have this as do not use. Once they had configured it, they would maintain it as do not use, because ideally whatever has been configured should not be deleted, right? So what they would do is they would mark it as do not use, rename it as do not use, and but even though they would maintain it as do not use, some of the business users might select it wrongly, right? So because in order to overcome that, SAP has come up with this functionality. We can mark it as deprecated, right? So you see, if I select this, I cannot do the posting for this. I'll select 1718. I try to click on post. I cannot post it, right? So basically, that is one of the key instance here, right? So if I select, I'll click on check, right? So that would not still not be feasible for posting. If I go back, I just give me a second. I'll go back 1710. Okay, and we will have this selected 1718 and we'll check, right? So it is deprecated. The system will not allow us to select it, right? What would happen if basically I change this, right? So I'll, instead of deprecated, I'll select it as no longer valid, correct? So what would happen in that case? So let me save this. So I've saved this data as no longer valid. If you see here, it's no longer valid now. I'll go back to Migo, okay, and enter the same purchase order, right? And I will go for this here. I'll click on 171. So you see, the plant, that storage location itself is not visible. 171. If I select no longer valid for the storage location, it would no longer be visible for the user to select when they are performing the goods receipt. So that is one of, so this is majorly the functionality. Deprecated is basically where the business user cannot post any stocks to that particular storage location, but it will still be visible, right? But it will give a hard stop error. Valid is basically where the storage locations are valid. No longer valid is where the business user cannot see that storage location at all whenever they are posting any transaction. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you for watching our video, right?